Today we are making flatbread on the grill, and Claire Tansey has two ways that we can make the dough. Here's what you're going to need to follow along. You need some flour, some salt, instant yeast, and water, and ta-da, you've got everything you need. Okay, Claire, the first kind of dough that we can use to make our flatbread is overnight dough. How do we make that?
So overnight dough is the easy way, but it just takes some time. And that means, like you probably guessed this, you have to let it rest overnight. Now it just starts with ordinary flour. This is all-purpose flour, but of course you could substitute half whole wheat if you wanted to.
Now, what is the big difference between the overnight dough and the 1 hour dough?
One takes a bit of kneading and one takes time. So with the overnight dough that I'm making here, just a bit of yeast and salt in there, what happens is the time does the work that the kneading does in the other one. So I'm just going to add some water into this here and stir it up, and then I'm literally going to leave it on the counter for 12 to 18 hours, and that's it. So I just have to stir this up. It looks really, really messy. You think, oh, how is this ever going to turn into pizza dough? But it will, because after about 12 or 24 hours, it ends up looking like this. And that's ready to use. Now, if you don't have overnight and you want to make pizza dough right away, you can also do the quick method. So again, starts with some simple flour, a bit of yeast and salt.
Well, you know what I should ask you, Claire, because there's so much debate over yeast. There are a few types of yeast that you can buy in the store. Is it important that you get the instant yeast for this? Is that crucial?
It really isn't. You know what? If all you can find is the active dry yeast, it's about the same. Here's the big news about bread and pizza dough. It's really forgiving. Like, we've been making bread out of the back of our huts for thousands of generations, and so you don't have to worry too much. Just really trust your gut, and if all you can find is the active dry yeast, then go for it. Now what I'm going to do here is, as mentioned, I'm actually going to have to knead this dough. So it's I'm going to like get it into this batter sort of state, and then instead of resting it for an hour overnight, I'm actually just going to leave it to rest for about an hour in the oven. But first, I've got to knead it. Get your hands in there, and what I'm going to do is really try to work this dough.
So this is the part where you get your workout in. I mean, it's kind of an arm workout to do the kneading. Am I right?
It's a little bit of an arm workout, because this does take like anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes. And you can see it looks really messy. It looks really sticky at this point. You can always add a bit more flour if it feels super sticky. But at this magical point, it'll just become smooth and elastic and gorgeous. And that's the point where I say, I just can't stop kneading it. It's just like rhythmic and meditative, and it's just so fun. I'm not at that point yet. But when I do get to that point, I will put it aside, and I put it either in the oven with the light on, just to let it rise, or I just put it on the counter. And then it ends up looking like this. So this is all risen and ready to go, and now we are ready to make some grilled flatbreads.
Can you actually put it aside in the fridge for a little while if you're not ready to use it right away, Claire?
You know, you can, but I even recommend it's actually even better to freeze it. So if you're making dough one day and you think, oh, you know what, I've got enough time, I'm going to make double the dough. You can do double and then just use, you just put half of it in the freezer and then thaw it at least for 6 hours. It really has to be at room temperature, because otherwise when you go to roll it, it'll just contract back up and it won't be any good at all. What I'm going to do though now with this dough is I'm going to separate it into 8 little flatbreads, just roll it out, and then I'm actually going to put them on the grill. So this is an amazing way to make fresh bread. I like to serve this with like a nice charcuterie board, or you know, a cheese plate or something like that. It's a great way to turn kind of a store-bought dinner into a real full dinner. Now let's talk about grilling bread. Okay, the barbecue is on. It is screaming hot. That is the #1 thing you have to do when you're going to cook pizza dough or flatbreads on the grills. You got to preheat, 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 nice and clean. I'm going to take my spray oil and grease it now that it's really, really hot. Here comes the fun part. Okay, here we go. No pan, just the grill.
You're so brave, Claire. I mean, how is this not going to just fall right through the grill slats?
I know, it's magic. And for the first time, you really have to believe in yourself and really believe that it's going to work. But this is a great recipe to start with because the flatbreads are really small. Next, when we do the pizzas, you'll see it's a little bit more. But just believe in yourself, have the courage of your convictions. You can do it, I promise you. And when that grill is really, really hot, what you'll see next is it's actually just going to cook. So after about a minute, and again on really, really hot heat, what's going to happen is it's going to start to cook. Let's take a little peek in here. You see how it's already getting ready? So it's going to take about a minute and a half per side, and then I'm just going to flip it over. And then in the meantime, like I can do some more. Like if there's more room on the grill, I could do more at one time. Or I'm just getting my dinner ready. That's all I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Claire. It looks so good. And I know you're going to be back a little bit later in the show with something else really delicious that you can make out of that dough, that 1 hour dough. And it's going to be a grilled pizza. Incredible.